Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're watching the recording, check the description for a timestamp of when we actually begin, which will be in about 3 to 4 minutes, letting some folks join us live. Hello. Welcome, Blossom. Welcome, Lori. Melina. Welcome. Yeah, I hope that audio sounds amazing. Pretty sure it does. I bought a new microphone. Hello, Pam. Welcome from Seattle. I'm feeling good. Which microphone? I bought a Shure Shure M7, I think. I think it was like $350. And I had a good microphone before that, but there was something weird going on with it that had this feedback noise. But this is definitely a higher quality microphone. Welcome, Z. Hope you're well. I'm feeling really good today. Just thought I'd share. Okay, what do we got going on? You know what I kind of feel like could happen? I wish we could hang out in person. I'm missing that a little bit in my life. To just sit with people and celebrate the miracle of being alive and having so many holy shit moments. God, it's so much fun. It's so much fun to sit with small groups of people and we just look. What's really going on here? What's this life thing really about? We always find something super beautiful. Welcome, Elizabeth. Welcome, Nancy. All right, I think it's time to officially start. I feel unprepared, though. Oops. And welcome. We ready? Hey, just FYI, if you're watching on Insight Timer, they've made a change to the donation structure, which usually, or last time, they would send us like half of the donations that came in. And they made a change where it's like, now we're just going to send you all of the donations. And that makes me way more excited about receiving donations. on Insight Timer. It was kind of weird to see people donating money. And then, I mean, granted, Insight Timer, they got bills to pay too, but they have other ways to do that. And so it's cool that they're giving us the full donation amount. So awesome that if you enjoy this program, if you enjoy this time we share and you want to support it financially, then I graciously receive your financial support. It really helps do what we do. Because I also have 3 full-time people on my team who help me do what I do. And they got bills to pay too. So you can donate to me, and then I'll donate to my team, and they can thrive as well. Anyway, welcome to the program. We are just going to ease our way into this, and I feel so much gratitude and appreciation for just being able to be here with you and to do this thing that we're doing. This is the Holding Space for Love to Be Seen podcast. My name's Tiger Singleton, and I'm going to guide us through a journey for about an hour, exploring this week's topic, which is a beautifully detached life. And we're going to start it off with 2 minutes of stillness. This is an opportunity to honor the presence that we get to share together, allow ourselves to be here in a devotionally committed way, which is like, okay, this is where I'm going to be. This is where I'm going to hang out. And I'm just going to allow myself to honor the space. Maybe that's weird for you. But for me, I can't do what I do without fully allowing myself to be present, without acknowledging that this is so much more about the space that we share together than it is about anything that might come out of my mouth. And so we really get to just enjoy. And if we discover some things, awesome. If not, no worries, because we're just enjoying the space. We're allowing ourselves to just be present. All right. We ready? Oh, after the 2 minutes of stillness, I'll run my mouth for a little bit on this topic. And then if there's any questions from the live audience, you guys can type in your questions or anything else you'd like me to speak to. And I'll share my reflections on that. And then we will end with a super short and sweet guided meditation. And I feel like I'm going to try and hit the 4 or 5 minute mark. We did that last time. We had like a 4-minute guided meditation. I just liked it. I just liked how it was just super short and sweet. So we'll do that. Sounds good. All right, let's get started with the 2 minutes of stillness. Beautiful. 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 All right, my friends. Holding space for love to be seen. Today's topic, a beautifully detached life. And this was inspired by a Zoom conversation that I had. And this person was telling me about the experience they're having with watching themselves shift from being captured by a narrative and then stepping back and seeing that they're captured by a narrative. It's the difference between believing you're the character in the story and then seeing that it's just a story with a character. And it's so beautiful that we have the capacity to do that. It's beautiful in two ways. It's beautiful to have the experience of story, which is a brilliant display of our capacity to imagine. It's super beautiful. And then also the beauty in recognizing that we are not held captive in the story, that we're not a prisoner to the story. And this fascinates me too, because the more that you assume that you are the character in the story, the more scary the story becomes. And so even if it's a scary story, if you can see that you're not the character in the story, it becomes a little bit less scary. And what I see happening here is simply the play between attachment and detachment. And as always, or as what appears to be regular, I wrote some pre-broadcast reflections on this topic about attachment and detachment. And if you didn't get a chance to read that, I encourage you to find it because it's super helpful if you're interested in what I'm sharing. But let's just take our time and we can explore these experiences of being attached and being detached and see how we might invite a little bit more ease into our experience. What is it to be attached? And in the most simple and direct way, what I see for myself is that to be attached to something is to draw my sense of identity from that something. And naturally, this something could be a person, place, object, or an experience, past, present, and future. What do I mean by that? To draw my sense of identity? Well, we can look at our human experience and our suffering and see how it stems from this attachment. And one of the illustrations that I like to use so much is our attachment with objects. In this example is that of a car. And this may or may not resonate with you, and you can find an object that does resonate with you. That is, if you go out and you buy a new car and you have thoughts that it makes you something. This car makes me cool. This car says I'm a responsible adult. This car means whatever about me. then I'm using that object to maintain a sense of identity. It tells me who I am. In my attachment to that car, anything that happens to that car, in some way, I perceive it as happening to me because I'm attached. And so in this example, if this car is my prized possession, then if somebody scratches the car, I feel like I'm scratched to some degree. Or if I lose the car, then I feel like something important was lost. I suffer over it. Now, what you can see beyond this attachment, beyond this identification with the car, is that if there's anything that happens to the car, it doesn't actually happen to me. And it's fascinating too, because you see the difference here between the attachment and the detachment. In one regard, something can happen to the car and I can suffer over it because I'm attached to it. And then from another space of detachment, I understand that I'm not the car. I understand that the car doesn't actually say anything about me. Sure, I might enjoy the car. It might be helpful, but it doesn't say anything about me. And so if anything happens to the car, it's inconsequential as it relates to my worth and value. And it's important to see this as it relates to suffering, because everything we suffer over as human beings points to our attachments. We're suffering over the change, the transformation, the perceived loss of the person, places, things, or circumstances that we're attached to. And then likewise, as you find yourself getting over the suffering, the liberation there is in the realization that that something that you're suffering over doesn't say anything about you. Another way this happens quite regularly is in relationships, where, I guess in the intimate relationship example, you find the special someone and you tell a story of yourself finding some form of self-completion. Like, I'm whole now. I'm fixed now. Or I'm worthy now because I have this relationship. And if anything happens to that relationship, then we find ourselves in this space of a great uncertainty as it relates to our worth and value, because where we found our worth and value in that something has now changed. And this is what we do as human beings, as we are fundamentally trying to find ourselves. We are fundamentally trying to answer the question, who am I? And we are answering that question of who am I by attaching ourselves to things in the world. That seems rather straightforward, does it not? We can do that with a job. We can do that with our family members. We can do that with the things that we like and the things that we don't like. We can do that with our expectations. We can do that with circumstance. We can do that with money. You see this. We are looking out into the world and we are trying to have the world tell you who you are. And then when something appears to tell you who you are and you like it, then you attach. Now, it's wise to understand that even though this attachment is intimately tied to suffering, it doesn't mean that attachment is wrong, because suffering isn't wrong either. It plays its part in the growth journey, and as does attachment. In fact, from a human standpoint, to function as a human being, there's a process of human development that requires the play of attachment. In some way, we can say that attachment affords the opportunity to build a healthy and secure ego structure. Because it would be quite silly to tell a child that they shouldn't be attached to their parents, or they shouldn't look to their parents to discover their own worth and value. It's an important part of the process. Almost to the degree that we can find it helpful to establish this healthy attachment so that we are prepared to let go of the attachment. And if we don't discover the healthy attachment, then it can be rather difficult to detach, because we're always wanting the healthy attachment if it didn't appear to show up. But if there's healthy attachment, it kind of creates a fantastic container for us to step outside of that attachment, to grow, to evolve, so to speak. And so we can invite a equanimity to both sides of this coin. That it's not wrong to experience attachment. It's not better to be detached. They go together. In the same way that there's the in-breath and the out-breath, they go together. The in-breath is more akin to the attachment, and the out-breath to that of the detachment. As it relates to the title, A Beautifully Detached Life, the reason I phrase it like that is to maybe extend an invitation to open up and see the beauty of detachment. And I say that because living a detached life can often come with negative connotations. Like, is it really so good to not be affected by things because we're detached? And this can really go both ways. It's just a matter of where is it coming from. And I would suggest that, yes, there's a beautiful opportunity to develop this capacity to detach from experience and not be so emotionally invested. Because when we're able to detach and see things more clearly and more broadly without being reactive, you get a chance to see a bigger picture. And when you see the bigger picture, this naturally leads towards seeing more beauty. And in that beauty, of course, it comes with things like more compassion, more patience, and a deeper love. You know why this is so true? Do you know what happens in the state of attachment that makes attachment problematic? Attachment introduces the potential for fear. And when we are in a state of fear, openness becomes a difficult thing because we're so busy trying to protect what we're afraid of losing, that thing that we're attached to. And this is why, as human beings, we can have such a tendency to live with a consistent state of fear because we're attached to so many things, or we are attached to things intensely. And the playful disaster here is if you're with fear about losing something, then you can't actually enjoy that something. Now, granted, the more attached you are, the less interested you are in enjoying that something. Because what are you more interested in? Protecting that something. Do you see that? It's like enjoying it isn't exactly a priority. What's a priority is not losing the thing that you're attached to. However, interestingly, one of the fastest ways to push away an experience is to engage it from a place of fear. And how obvious is this in relationship? It's pretty obvious. If you are so afraid to lose a relationship, you're not available to enjoy that relationship. So the relationship, one second. We're getting audio issue notices. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So just notice this. If you're afraid of losing the relationship, there's a restriction and a tension that does not allow you to enjoy the relationship. And if you're not enjoying the relationship, do you see the great difficulty in having that relationship be a success? Success in the context not of reaching an outcome, but success in the context of authentic connection depth, growth. Do you see that to really engage a relationship, you have to let go of it? To really engage anything, you have to let go of it. And what would it mean to detach from a relationship? This is fun to look at. For myself, what I see is that the detachment is in recognizing that I don't really know what's best. Specifically for the other person or for that something that I'm engaging with. And in the context of relationship, even though I might be enjoying your presence, I don't know that it's best for you to be with me in 10 years from now. Right? It's like I don't really know what your journey entails. I don't know where you're going to end up. And so I release you from that obligation. I extend to you a freedom to be what you are. And in the release of that, it allows me to fully enjoy right now, because right now is what we have. Which is an interesting thing, because this is almost like a backdoor in how to hold on, but you can't really do it with that kind of attitude because it has to be incredibly sincere. And what I mean by that is you're more inclined to stay with someone who lets go of you. Do you see how this letting go of someone invites them to stay? And the clinging on that comes with all sorts of projections, all sorts of manipulative fears. These are things that push away. And so the attachment that could be helpful in the beginning, because it's almost unavoidable, isn't going to be the necessary tool for what we might call the longevity of enjoyment. And this is why embracing an authentic form of detachment is such a beautiful thing, because it helps you relate with life experience, circumstance, and other people in a much more free way. And also what's seen that allows for detachment in relationship actually into attachment in anything. And this goes a little bit deep, but see if you can follow me here. I recognize that in my experience of attachment, I'm not really attached to the thing. I'm attached to my idea of the thing. I'm not really attached to the car. I'm attached to my idea of the car. I'm not attached to the other person. I'm attached to my idea of the other person. I'm not attached to past circumstances. I'm attached to my ideas about those circumstances. I'm not attached to future outcome. I'm attached to my ideas about that outcome. Can you see how deeply true that is? Right? And I think the car illustration is a great example. You can see very clearly that you're not actually attached to that object called a car. You're attached to your ideas about it and what you think it means about you. Okay, so this takes us a little bit more deeply as it relates to seeing that the things we attach to in the world are not actually in the world. It's kind of mind-blowing, maybe. It looks like we're attached to things in the world, but what are you really attached to? Your ideas. And some of those ideas could be, this person makes me feel safe. This person loves me. This person supports me. And yes, in appearances, it may look that way. But that's also what you're perceiving. You're seeing your perception of being supported. You're seeing your perception of being loved. It looks that way from behind your eyes. This invites a profound extension of freedom for me, given to what appears to be out there. It's an extension of freedom given to the car that says, I'm not really attached to you. You're free. I'm attached to my ideas. It's an extension given to another human being that says, even though it seems like I'm attached to you, it's not really you that I'm attached to. I'm attached to my own mental content, my own stories. Do you see this beautiful release? And I guess it depends to what degree and what depth you see what I'm pointing to. And this also shows me maybe a doorway to a more authentic detachment, where I'm not trying to detach from the other person or the object. Really, what I'm doing is I'm becoming more clear about what's true. Because you see that in appearances, if I see that I'm not really attached to the car, then I let go of the car. See, I don't consciously decide to detach from the car. I see what's true. And as I always point back to, these things that we crave, love, compassion, and freedom, they come by way of seeing what's true. They're not actually things that you do or things that you make happen. They come because you see yourself, others, and life more clearly. And this is a great point as it relates to the play of attachment and detachment. If you crave detachment so that you can enjoy yourself more. You don't get detachment by trying to detach. That just becomes pretending to detach. It comes by way of being more radically honest with yourself about the experience. And part of that honesty is seeing that I'm not really attached to that thing or that someone. And this points me home to connect with a more authentic discovery, which is pointing me back to see that my dilemma is not in life, not in other people, not in circumstances, not in experience. My dilemma is in believing the mind's content. My dilemma is being pulled around by the imagination. You know what this also does? It invites me into a stillness. Right? Because if I see the issue isn't out there, the issue isn't the other person, it's not the circumstance. The issue is in what I think is happening and believing the mind's content, which is also to say, I'm not discerning the difference between reality and my imagination. And this is the fundamental spiritual invitation. Discern the difference between what is real and what is imagined. And in some way, we can say attachment is confusing the imagination as reality. We attach ourselves to the imagination, which is another way of saying that we are looking for our worth and value in the mind's content. Right? Because trying to find your worth and value in the mind's content, or rather, trying to find your worth and value in the world, is simply trying to find your worth and value in the mind's content. Please see that. Because so much, as a pointer, we talk about seeking things in the world. We talk about trying to find yourself in the world. But all of that in the world stuff is just in your mind stuff. Whatever you think is in the world is actually in your imagination. Do you see that? Is this as fascinating to you as it is to me? Because as we have our human experience, we emphatically believe that what we see out there is really out there. But it's not. What you're seeing is how you see. And this points to a beautiful detachment. Where I let go of the world. Because I'm not experiencing the world out there. I'm experiencing what I am. I'm experiencing my own misperceptions. I'm experiencing my own confusions. I'm experiencing the fear of imaginary monsters that I put there. And when I really, 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 really see that, I let go of the world and everyone. Everyone. You know what this also reminds me about, and it's also a future episode. but it's the topic of seeing innocence in all things. And it's so interesting how all of these words actually point to the same concept: innocence, forgiveness, detachment, compassion. It's all speaking to the same thing. You see, when you don't see innocence, you see guilt. But our guilt is simply blaming something out there for our internal experience. Like, for example, if I want to go play out in the sunshine and I'm excited about it, and then it starts raining and I get emotionally disturbed, then I blame the rain for my disturbance. Do you see that? I experience suffering, emotional disturbance, and I think it's caused by the rain. And so I project guilt onto the rain, which is also to say I withhold love from the rain. But what isn't seen is that the rain neither has the capacity or the interest in affecting my internal state of being. The rain is going to be the rain because the rain needs to be the rain in order for life to be life. Now, my experience of the rain isn't determined by the rain. My experience of the rain is determined by how I see the rain. And when I see that the rain doesn't have the capacity to disturb me, then there's nothing that the rain can be guilty of. Therefore, all I see in the rain is innocence. And in this innocent, adorable misunderstanding, as human beings, we carry around so many confusions, misunderstandings, misinterpretations that create these restrictions, painful responses that come from a misplaced blame. Maybe misplaced isn't even the right word, as if it goes somewhere else. It doesn't. More accurately, it's seen there's nothing to blame. Because again, what I'm blaming is my idea of the rain. And my idea of the rain isn't really out there. As it relates to what's real, there's nothing in reality to blame. And just as easily, there's nobody else out there to blame, because I would just be blaming my ideas of people. I would be blaming the mind's content while thinking I'm blaming someone else. Do you see how this arrival of seeing innocence is so intimately tied with the play of detachment? To detach from the projection that what I think is happening, and to see that it's not really happening. To unravel the confusion that thinks the car tells me who I am, and to see that it doesn't do that at all. Likewise, for the one who scratches my car, and I blame them for the pain I experience, I see that they can't actually give me that pain. Only I can do that. And I only do that through a misunderstanding. This dramatically changes how you experience life. Dramatically changes it. That's why it's a beautifully detached life. Also, in the spirit of that, maybe we can call this a detached attachment, where it's recognizing the play of attachment, where we allow ourselves to have the experience of attachment. But underneath that experience, we know what's true, even if we get lost from time to time in the attachment, because being attached is part of it. It's okay. In the same way that part of the reason you enjoy a movie so much is because there's some element of attachment. It reminds you of your own human experience. And in that, you can experience beauty, enjoyment. But also, something underneath knows that it's just a movie. Now, because you see that the movie isn't true, that it's not really happening, it doesn't mean you don't watch the movie. In fact, because you know the movie isn't true, allows you to more deeply enjoy the movie. It allows you to get lost in the movie. It allows you to feel more deeply the movie. Right? I think that's a really important point. It doesn't mean that you don't watch the movie. Rather, it means that it's totally okay to watch the movie. It's totally okay to give yourself to the movie. It's totally okay to have the experience of the movie. This is like in the play of relationship. In one regard, we can hear these spiritual things and then try to have a relationship where we don't experience attachment, rather than allowing yourself to enjoy the movie of attachment in relationship. Why? Because it can be beautiful. Now, if you don't see underneath the play that it's just a play, then you bring a lot of fear into the play of attachment. And if you find yourself deeply rooted in the fear of attachment, then it's time to step back and take a breath and breathe out and see what's really going on here. Whoa, I got lost in the attachment. That's fine. But let's take a breath and remember that this is playful. Like playfully speaking in a relationship, I might say to someone, it really seems like I want you. But I also know that you're free. But my God, there's something in me that really wants you. And that's fun. It's like honoring the human element rather than pretending like it's not there because I'm super spiritual. Do you see there's this beautiful balance where we don't have to cling and we don't have to push away? They can both exist simultaneously. And it's the balance between the two that teaches you. It's attachment that teaches you how to detach, and it's detachment that teaches you how to attach. And this isn't so much something that you do, it's something that you discovered through your play of attachment and detachment. It's like letting it all just unfold. Okay. I'm done running my mouth. Any questions? Any tips on how to practice detachment? You know, in the pre-broadcast reflections, if I can find it here, I think I did give some tips. Yeah. For myself, here are 3 things I find incredibly helpful for inviting a healthy detachment. Thanks for the donation, Ann. Appreciate it. Tip number 1, a natural curiosity that watches myself attach to that which is not real without any form of judgment. You see, this is a game of curiosity. I'm here to see something. And so I'm curious about what's really happening. I'm not judging it. I'm curious. So I want to watch my human experience. I want to watch this mechanism of something inside of me that wants to attach to things. And so can I see that? Can I watch it from a place of non-judgment? And again, I say from non-judgment because we're always so quick to judge. You can watch with the assumption that you shouldn't be attaching. That's not necessary. It's not helpful. It's already happening. And so to be curious and to watch, I'll read it again. A natural curiosity that watches myself attach to that which is not real without any form of judgment. Number 2, allowing myself to enjoy the beauty of attachment, which is like being the author of a beautiful human love story, while also seeing that it's a story. So when I see the impulse to attach, when I see that longing, when I see that clinging, can I recognize the beauty in it? And again, good luck doing this with judgment. Can I see that it's a beautiful love song? And can I see that that love song is just telling a beautiful story? Discern the difference. I don't need to stop the story. Can I just see that it's a story? Number 3, when I see that I'm painfully attached, I invite myself to see that I'm attached to my thoughts about the something rather than thinking I'm attached to the something out there. My attachment is really an attachment to the mind's content. I'm not really attached to anything in the world. This is so helpful to me because when there's painful attachment, there is the belief that I'm actually attached to that something out there. Like I'm really buying into that illusion. And the pain of attachment is an alarm. It's trying to tell me that I'm pretty confused right now. And so that invites a stillness to question what's really happening. And so I ask myself, can I see that I'm not really attached to the person? I'm not really attached to the outcome. I'm not really attached to what I think happened. I'm attached to my thoughts. And this invites me to release that something or the person. Because I see that it's really not them. It's like, wow, I am so lost in my own mind's content. And I don't do anything about it. I just see that. It's in the seeing of it that invites liberation. It's not in trying to fix it. It's just in a willingness to see more clearly. And then as I see more clearly, it's like it heals itself in its own time and in its own way. The question is, how honest can I be about my experience? And then also, as I see that, can I rest in that seeing? Right? Like breathe into it. That's a bit of a meditative space. Anything else? All right. I think we'll do the guided meditation now. All right, meditation time. Let's go. Thanks, Kate, for the donation. You're welcome, Z. Welcome to this meditative space. Can we just relax for a moment? Spend a few minutes together. And maybe we can allow this to totally not be a serious thing. Let's ground in to the present moment. And just remember that here we are, right now. Let's take 3 deep breaths and just invite ourselves to come back to right now. Let's breathe. I want to invite us to recognize the adorable silliness in believing the mind's content. And of course, for us to do that, we have to look at it without any judgment at all. We can simply be curious, fascinated even. But just recognize the capacity for the mind to believe its stories, to think things are happening that aren't actually happening at all. It's fascinating, isn't it? It's also beautiful. Beautiful that we could tell such amazing stories. And furthermore, that we can feel those stories, even if they're scary. And that's beautiful because whatever you're imagining, it's not really happening. So I invite us to not only recognize this, but to rest in that place in between, where there is this moment right now, and then your capacity to imagine all sorts of things. And in the middle there is a stillness. It's a stillness that allows for nothing, and a stillness that allows for everything. All the stories. Let's take 3 deep breaths and just rest in that space in between. And maybe celebrate a little bit that nothing's actually happening. Let's breathe. It's perfectly fine to tell stories. It's a gift. This something we call the imagination. It's where creating begins. But let's, if we can, just be a little bit more aware that the stories aren't just stories. Okay? Okay. Go play. Thanks for meditating with me today. All right, lovelies. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for your donations, if you feel so inspired to do that. And I will not be back next week. And I will not be back the week after that. I'm going to Ibiza next Tuesday for a week. Flying out on Tuesday and flying back on Tuesday. So maybe we'll schedule it for a different day. Maybe. We'll just see. But God willing, I shall return. Till next time, my friends. Aloha and cheers to the beauty that you already are. Bye-bye.